The following is an interview that I did with Dale Brown of Threat Management Center in Detroit this past week. As always, I learned some things from this interview, and I expect you will too. Dale is an innovator.
Yeah, sorry about that. Okay,
No
so
problem.
yeah, yeah, we're on the same page. The bottom line is, uh, it's about creating conditions for prosperous conditions to occur, which requires peaceful, non-violent conditions, and that's what threat management is about. It's about teaching people how to do that on an actual individual basis. You know how you can conduct yourself, how you can
Yeah.
create. You know what I mean? You as the person, not you as
Yes.
in the group, or you have to do some special things or something. You know what I mean? It's just, what do I do? How do I say this? How do I walk up to someone? What should I do if this happens? You know what I mean? The actual things you would need to do to manage your everyday issues. I hear gunshots outside. Someone walks up to me to sell me something, and what kind of things should I be looking for? But not just the rudimentary things like you hear people talk about, but I mean actually the subconscious things that you would need to
Yeah.
know about yourself and others, so you can create the most ideal outcome possible that's nonviolent.
Yeah. So in a lot of sense, I think we look at and even I've watched some of the videos that you guys have prepared, and it's taking guns out of people's hands, and people coming up with knives and stuff like that. But a lot of the training that you're talking about is not taking knives out of people's hands, but actually thinking about the psychology behind the situation that might lead up to that, where you never even have to go that far. But
Absolutely,
it
absolutely.
is also about building the confidence that you can deal with that situation that leads you to.
The competence. So think
Yes.
about this: without the competence, you won't have the confidence. You'll have fake
Yeah.
confidence, and this is the problem with law enforcement officers who don't have enough training. And that's why I advocate. That's why I teach police officers, right? So they can
Mhm.
become calm. So officers that have a lot of training, they don't get upset. Those officers are calm. They're
I
able
see.
to go through emotional situations without getting excited, and that's
Yeah.
because when you don't have fear, right? Um, you're able to communicate with people. But once you have fear, right, you're going to respond the way neurologically you're supposed to, which is fight, flight, or freeze. So what we
Yeah.
want to do is make sure people have the ability to manage threats, right? By not having the fear of that knife or gun. Do they have a knife? Do they have a gun? Who knows? Who cares? It doesn't matter, because you know what to do if they did try to pull it out.
Yeah.
Now, what we're going to do now is, instead of worrying about the fear of the knife or gun, we're going to talk to them in such a way that they realize, number one, there's no opportunity to pull the gun. Number two, there's no need to pull the gun. And number three, you're actually on their side. You're going to get them out of the situation. So let's go. Let's get out of here. Whatever this is,
Yeah.
let's stop this
Yeah.
escalation. So it's all positive, positive, positive. And then if it went negative anyway, guess what you have? Actual skills to defend you and your family. Yeah.
Yes.
So, and again, ours centers on now not to exchange lives and kill each other, but how do you get that weapon out of their hand? The only thing worse than
Yeah.
getting stabbed or shot is what? What's the only thing worse than getting stabbed or shot? It's
Um,
getting stabbed or shot again. So hurry up
you
and
made
get
me
the gun
think
and knife
there.
out of their hands. So,
Yeah.
so simple, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so the best solutions are simple. The best solutions are simple. And that's what we teach. Practical, simple things that kids can do, adults, senior citizens. And what's great, and this is what I love, is that I've got police officers and civilians. Many of them are on my website, and they talk about not just how we help them, but how the
Yeah.
training. And this is what I like the best, is that especially the police officers come back with stories of how they use the training to not injure people. And there's some officers that talk about that tactical training, creating conditions where they save their lives in firefights. So we do teach advanced tactics. But what I'm most proud of is the civilians and the police able to solve problems without violence. And I get those stories back now after 25 years of teaching. I get them back constantly. So people come back to me and they're like, "Oh my God, guess what happened?" And then I was able to
Yeah.
talk them down. I was able to do this, and it's all nonviolence, man. And like 9 out of 10
Yeah.
situations are nonviolent. There is 10th out of 10, which is, I use my skills and I was able to dominate a physical threat, which I'm happy, right? But I'm most
Yeah.
proud of the non-violence, where they're able to read the situation and then create a path towards a nonviolent outcome, man. It's beautiful to hear these stories back.
Yeah. Well, would you mind sharing a story that kind of relates that kind of situation?
Oh man, there's so many.
Well,
I'll give you several. Yeah.
Okay.
One story is, that deals with kids. There was a shooting, and some kids were at a roller rink. Police showed up, made all the kids get on the ground. Okay, they just started pointing guns at the kids. They didn't know which ones were in the gangs or which one was shooting. The kids that attended my class did what I trained them to do, which is step one, never run. All the other kids were running around screaming, right, scared because the police showed up in a large group. Number two, showed their hands, right, had their hands like in a out in the open, right, not up like I'm under arrest, but out in the open. And number three, they greeted the police officer. Hello, sir. How are you today? So the police officer says, okay, you 4 girls, they're all like 11 years old. You 4 girls, stay right here. Don't move. You're fine. Don't have to get on the ground. But everybody else has to get on the ground. And that's because they were able to create a bond with that police officer and create a condition where the police officer trusted them and started asking them questions about the shooting and who was doing the shooting without making them get on the ground. Without our training, those girls have been running around, also possibly getting beaten or shot or taken into custody, and not even part of the actual, criminal activity. So again, not physical, psychological with some physical manifestations, right?
Yes.
Then one of my team members, a Marine that just got back, and we don't carry weapons now because I decided to stop carrying weapons. We just don't need them. But at the time we were carrying, and we stopped in 2017. So this story is from 2015. One of my guys who just got back from the Marine Corps, and he carried 3 weapons, 3 pistols, and 3 knives, right? And most of our staff did.
Well armed.
Yeah, very well armed. So he gets to the scene. We call to a disturbance. We call the police, and because of domestic violence, we call the police. There's a husband and wife. Both of them are professionals. They both have concealed pistol licenses. They both have their guns out.
Uh-oh.
And they're in a domestic dispute with the children and the mother-in-law. Okay, they're all screaming. The guns are out. So think about this. How are you going to kill the parents? They're both representing high levels of threat, right? They both have their guns out, and they're both threatening to shoot. So my team member does what I train him to do, which was to not use his gun. Even though he's a Marine, he just got back from Afghanistan. He does not pull his guns out. He walks over and talks to them and says, hey, he doesn't have any fear. He walks close to the man and says, sir, let me just talk to you for a minute. It's okay. Let's talk over here. Ma'am, can you put your gun down, please? All right, we're just going to back up. The kids are here. We're going to calm down. And then he walks the man back into his house and talks to him. And the woman and the children leave, and the mom leaves. It's all over. By the time the police got there, which is about 15 minutes later, the situation was already calm and done and taken care of. Now, if we'd have been late, or they definitely would have shot each other, or if we start shooting the parents would have shot us as well. So that's an example of an extreme condition. I mean, and how do you explain this to your neighbors? So you had to kill the neighbors next door because they were both having a domestic dispute. They're both armed. So, we're private. We shot your neighbors because they were out of control, and we'd like you to pay us now. So the concept of private policing is insane. Think about that. Yeah. When you find out your paid protector went next door and shot your neighbor, I'd like you to explain how you feel about that.
Well,
especially when they come to get their check next month, they're like, hey, bro, what happened? Sorry, your neighbor Chuck was a lot of control, him and his wife. So, we had to shoot him. But it's okay. We're not shooting you. Can I have my check now?
Yeah, that's the other.
Can't work, man.
The other thing is that you're just demonstrating the long-term thinking that not just the situation, but what all the other ramifications that are in response to that situation that could go wrong. So that little situation could go wrong, but it could impact that community for years. There could be a legend of, the 2 people that shot each other, and then, that house is next to that house.
Oh, exactly.
Man, I'm not going to buy that.
Right. Who's going to buy a house where people got murdered?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So all
Another
those
one is
long-term things that come about
yes.
because of just that little, you know,
So
5-minute
my
situation
organization,
that goes wrong.
a
Oh,
major
good.
university told my organization not to protect this, not to protect a rabbi that's a member of the Zionist organization
Okay.
of Israel. Okay, they said do not protect him at this university. We'll protect him, and the Palestinians that are protesting, don't worry about that. We'll take care of it.
Okay.
So they said, in fact, they said if we go there, it'll be a problem for us. So
Okay.
we went there anyway. Okay, we didn't go there because we support Zionism. We went there because
Yeah.
we support the protection of life and prevention of violence. Right. So I stood on one side of the rabbi, another guy stood on the other side of the rabbi, and we had the Palestinian flyers, and we were jumping around with the Palestinian kids at this college campus, yelling. I wasn't yelling anything, but we're jumping in unison with the Palestinian kids in college, right? These are adults, right? And there was a Mossad agent that was with the two rabbis, okay? That was right behind him, acting like he was not Mossad. And his fanny pack on and his weapons there for sure, and ready to shoot whoever. And there's hundreds of Palestinian kids and other Middle Eastern Muslim kids that were college kids at this major university that were jumping around, very upset about this rabbi showing up who was upset about the Palestinian that was speaking that day at the university. So we stood around on both sides flanking the Zionist rabbi who was supporting Zionism and Israel at the same time. And we were hired by a Zionist organization specifically. And what we did was we stood on both sides of him, jumped around. At the end, all the kids left, all the Palestinians left. We never let them get close to him, right? And then at the end, and we were dressed in like sports attire, like sweatshirts from that school, right? And so we were not in any kind of uniform. So so at the end, the rabbi looks at me and goes, "What do you want? Why are you still here? What do you want from me?" Because he thought we were with them. We were standing really, really close to him, right? And all the protesters were gone. And I said, we're with this organization. He said, oh my gosh, you're here protecting me. Yes, we're protecting you. And so it wasn't, we're protecting him because we agree with him. What we don't want is this rabbi to be attacked and killed, or attacked and injured, or attacked and then have the Mossad agent start shooting, or this advanced trained Israeli, looked like pretty sure he was special forces of some type, start shooting the Palestinian kids or the Middle Eastern Muslim kids as a result of an attack on the rabbi, on the other rabbi, right? So what I did was, and this is the thing, if your objective is to not have violence, you can do that, but you have to focus on that. That's the only thing that's important. It doesn't matter if I agree with him or not. What I agree with is not having violence and stopping it without being violent. So instead of standing there being offensive to the Palestinian kids or offensive to the rabbi, what I did was create a condition where no violence could take place. We will not let anyone touch anyone.
Yeah.
So that's an example, real life, how I use the training, right, with the philosophy of anti-kill. The anti-kill philosophy means there's always a way to preserve human life under all conditions, okay? So when, let's see, a police officer told me that a woman came at him with a stick. He's also on my website, and she was going to hit him in the head like a bludgeon, like a baton, like a stick or something. And he, instead of using his intermediate weapons or using his weapon, he decided to close in, take the stick from her using our disarm, and did not hurt her. And he was very proud of that as well, the sergeant. He's now a lieutenant on the police force now.
Nice.
So the training works, it's proven, it saves lives, and it creates life where there would be death. And we're very proud of that. And this works in Mexico as well as it works in every country.
A couple questions that come up, and I don't know. I mean, we are at over an hour and 37 minutes at this point, so I know your time is valuable, Dale, and I
What's question?
appreciate it.
Okay.
But there's a couple different things in Acapulco and a great deal of Mexico. most people don't really have any respect for the police, and certainly not for their investigative abilities. You know, when it
Right.
comes to murders and stuff like that, there's no detectives coming to find out what happened. They may act like they're doing that, but pretty much all the time it's just it's a show rather than any kind of, you know, forensic study of what's going on, and who the bad guy is.
Right.
And so no one believes that the case, but that's one of the areas that is probably something that you know, over the long term, and certainly prevention is the best policy. But
Well, you notice in the
do you
United
go
States is
about?
different, right?
Yeah,
You notice in the United States is different, right?
yeah,
What you can see now is that it's not like Mexico. What happens here is you can be taken into custody and you'll be free 20 to 30 years later.
yeah,
See the difference?
yeah. Well, and what I'm saying though is that, like, there's no investigation here, you know,
Well, there isn't
and
here either, but still you end up in jail. So let me be clear. I hate to
well,
bust the bubble. I hate to bust the bubble, but that fantasy is a fantasy, sir, and you can see
yeah,
it by the exonerations now, right? Those
yes,
exonerations are not state funded. That is kids in college and people in their spare time freeing people on Facebook. But in real life, it's many more than that. And it's all day, every day throughout the country. And remember this, the stats then, all the stats you ever had would also be wrong because there's people being arrested and convicted who didn't do anything on a massive
oh,
scale.
yeah, absolutely, I agree there.
See what I'm saying? So where we're saying the Mexicans aren't doing the investigation, what I can conclude is this: good in many cases, because unfortunately,
Great,
you have the
great.
evidence to prove to you that the opposite is actually worse.
Yeah, so yeah, so what you're let me just make sure I understand what you're saying is that, like, a crime happens, the 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 local people, the local investigating body comes out, says, okay, we think we know who the criminal is. We go and we get a criminal. We 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 make them say that they did the crime, and then we make some kind of deal, and they go off to prison for so many years. And that has nothing to do with what actually happened in most cases.
And worse than that, and worse than that.
Okay.
It's so much worse than what you just said that it's
Okay.
literally unbelievable. And I
Okay.
can't even tell you, but I've been right there, and I didn't believe that. I believe that basically, you did something. Like I believe that. And now I can
Yeah.
just tell you
Something
for
happened.
sure that, and you can see by the fact that the FBI is freeing people and producing evidence, and people are getting out, and so that the students, college kids, are bringing stuff up, and police officers are being prosecuted at an unprecedented level now. That
Yeah.
for the fact that there was a lack of evidence, and then there was somehow evidence, or there's exculpatory evidence, which, if you
Right.
think about it, the term exculpatory should not even exist.
So
So,
again, the better solution to that is just never have that situation happen, and then the police and all the bad police don't don't have an excuse to go and take somebody that's an innocent person and throw them in jail.
right,
And
right. Well, what we did is we incentivized it, right? We incentivized the negative outcome by saying, listen, just get somebody.
yeah,
Right. Right. So now, instead of you saying, well, I don't know who did it, you say, well, here's someone who can't explain where they worked.
yeah,
Right? Because we negative incentivized, right? Without
yeah,
accountability and responsibility. And then the FBI will create accountability and responsibility a lot of times years later. But wouldn't it be better if we just didn't have the issue
yeah.
by preventing, you know what I mean? So we prevent the conditions, and now a whole bunch of other things are just prevented, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like that's why prevention is so important, because when you don't have prevention, you have so many perversions that naturally occur. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not one thing that's positively affected. It's like 10 different things. Police officers are better off. The public is better off. Prevention is better for everyone, in every
Absolutely.
way. And everything after prevention is a level of loss. So the part where you imprison people, losses. The part where you arrest people, losses. The part where people do crimes and get arrested, losses. There's
Yeah.
The part where you use violence legally to kill someone who was trying to do something wrong, right? Still bad. It's all losses. These are all losses. Just different levels of loss. So if we just change our core values from celebrating negative conditions and outcomes, we could then change the outcomes. But as long as we're celebrating, creating negative metrics, right? Arrest for rape, arrest for robbery, arrest for killing, arrest for drugs, arrest. As long as we're rewarding for these arrests and not prevention of the arrest, we're going to have more arrests, more convictions, more incarceration. And then Bill Clinton did not make anyone get arrested. What he did was he participated in a system that rewards for incarceration. That's all.
Yeah.
No, it's not that deep. Okay. But the police officers themselves could have reversed the whole thing by refusing to participate. But instead, he incentivized law enforcement officers to prosecute people for crimes. I mean, that's the bottom line. So if we wanted prosecution, that's what they did. And then getting mad at police because they prosecuted doesn't make any sense when that's what we asked them to do. As a society, we ask police to prosecute. And I've actually been criticized by people who said to me, you guys aren't doing nothing because you're not arresting people. And I said to one of our customers, I said, ma'am, have you heard of anyone in your community being raped, robbed, or killed since the day we started? She thought about it for a minute, and she said, no, I never thought of it that way. I said, yeah, we don't allow you and your neighbors to get raped, robbed, or killed because that's not what we're tasked to do. We're tasked to stop you from being raped, robbed, and killed, okay? Yeah. Not arrest those who kill you, all right? The police, I said, remember across the street there was a lot of police cars last week? She was like, yes. I said, that's because 2 blocks away from you, a man was shot 15 times at 9 o'clock in the morning. The police came, shut down the area, and then they went to look for the killer. That's what police do, and that's what we want them to do. We want them to go catch the bad guys. But if we didn't want to have bad guys, if we didn't want to have incarceration, if we didn't want to have arrests, then we would have to retask police and give them rewards and bonuses for prevention of crimes. In other words, when crime goes down, give cops more money. When there's no lawsuits, give them more money. When there's no injured suspects, no people taken into custody, give them a bonus, financial bonus. If there's no car crashes of police cars, give them a financial bonus. Next thing you know, police officers are wealthy, healthy, and happy. And having a bunch of people running around wealthy, healthy, and happy is in the best interest of everyone, especially if they have guns and are deciding who did something bad or not. We want the best and brightest people to be the ones making decisions. And for that reason, we need a lot more training for law enforcement officers and a lot more money, okay, that we give them for bonuses for behavior, not just for existing. So performance bonuses for police would be critically important. And then, it's like, think of it like this, a private aircraft, right? I represent a private airplane, right? I'm a private entity. But I'm just socially conscious private entity, right? So first and foremost, I'm an educational facility, right? But the business side of what we do is like a private plane. So private planes, they're smaller and more agile, but they're also a lot more expensive to have service you. Whereas a larger plane is, obviously less nimble. However, it does allow you to ride on it for a much more modest price. Yes. So, private sector versus public, more commercialized public services is what it is. So it's expensive if you want excellence. It's very expensive, and there's a reason. That's because it's very hard to accomplish, and it's very accommodating. But at the same time, we do need to make sure people can travel and do things they need to do. So we need to provide people with what they need to succeed. Because when people succeed, society succeeds. That's my point, right?
And that's another thing is that like putting the money where it makes the most sense is also an important consideration. Like you're saying, like if you invest in training people to not have these situations happen, so that they know how to deal with those kind of circumstances, so they end in positive outcomes. You end up with everybody, benefiting from that, and that's the kind of money. That's the place you want to put the money, is where everybody benefits the most. I would think.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, and absolutely, absolutely, and we just need to we just got to change our thought process. You know what I mean? That's all. Once we change our belief systems, we can change our outcomes. And
Absolutely.
there's no correlation between most things that we've been correlated, right? So
Yeah.
we think of these negative, nefarious narratives, and that's all they are. They're not actually truth, right? So
Yeah.
I've been to Mexico. I didn't have any problems. I'm not saying there's no gangs there or something, but I'm just saying I didn't get abducted. I didn't get nothing happened to me. But yeah, the way the narrative is that if you go to Mexico, you're basically going to be killed.
Yeah.
Just like,
Yeah. Well,
unless you go
that
to
was
the resort area.
that kind of relates to my second question, which was, like the motivation to commit crime or to have crime is also one of the things that's present in Mexico, and it's you know I think it there's a benefit to having a crime wave come in and like lower the price of property, and then for someone to come along and buy up all the property, and then the crime wave goes away, and all that property is
Yeah,
now worth 10 times as much as it was when there was a big crime wave. And
yeah.
so
You get
how,
that?
how do you
You get
how
it?
do you address that kind of situation?
Well, you address that by understanding that the crime was related to the money,
Yeah.
not the people. So once you understand who benefits, you understand who did it. And a lot
Yeah.
of people, common people, can't understand that they don't understand business, so they think that things just happen. There's magical pricing and there's magical this and magical that, and that's not true.
Yeah.
Okay, so all these things are part of a larger capitalistic plan on how you capitalize on people. And so I'm very naive. I'm from the suburbs, so mentally I didn't know it either. I mean, I learned all this stuff the hard way. We were being
Yeah.
attacked by gangs at one point. When I say gangs, I mean like 50, 60 guys would just attack us out of the blue. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, this doesn't make sense. Like, why would people leave a house? Like, you leave your house, like, what are you doing? Put on my white T-shirt so that when I get to this nightclub, we're going to all rip our shirts off and attack the security. Like, that. And I remember thinking, wow, it's an amazing amount of organization. And then I found out years later that it was organized crime.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
organized crime syndicates were attacking where we were working. I didn't know. I'm oblivious to, crime syndicate. I'm, altruistic and I'm thinking about, healthy family, and I fund my organization through nightclub security, right? And I'm
Yes.
not thinking about the negative impact on someone else's business, okay? But if
Yeah.
the business I'm working for is thriving, that means someone else isn't. Okay, so if my company is making it so that all the kids, all the people in their 20s want to go to one nightclub, we're talking about $25,000, $50,000 a night.
Yeah.
Okay, that means someone else's nightclubs aren't making any money. All right, so that means
Yeah.
somebody's starving. That means their employees, their families, their businesses are starving.
Hmm.
So they send people to attack my client. But I
Yeah.
thought it was urban violence. I thought it was like urban gangs or something. It's not. It was not. It was
Yeah.
actual organized crime.
Yeah.
And I was so naive, being a suburban kid. I didn't know that there was even such a thing. I thought it was like Italian mafia or something. I know it's like actual real stuff. like there's real organized crime. Really? I didn't know that. It's like I thought it was a TV show. And what we're talking about is this: that people, right? When you win, someone else loses. Okay. And I was told it was an American dream. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps, and then you win. And your win is someone else's loss. Okay. So if you're a restaurant, you open a restaurant, and it does well. Guess what? Someone else's restaurant doesn't do well. And that person has a family. That person has employees. They have families. They're angry. And guess what they want? They want their business back. Okay, so they can get rid of you by hook or by crook. They're going to do that.
Yeah.
And it takes a strong person to resist attacking those that just stole their wealth from their family's, ability to feed themselves. Okay. I mean,
Right.
ideally, what you're supposed to do is adjust, right, and go to war. Legal business. You know what I mean? Like you have a business, I have a business, so we are supposed to adjust our pricing and try to, defeat each other that way, right? But that's not,
Yeah.
and that's
Provide
like, I think we
provide
start off that
value.
way, but then, yeah.
Provide a better value.
And Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, let's compete, right? But then the reality is you have bills. You know, you have bills, real bills.
Yeah.
And, I, and then I open my business, whatever it is, doesn't matter, grocery store, nightclub, doesn't matter. And your family begins to starve and your morals will start to decay. That's
Yeah.
common for most people there, not to say you, but a lot of people's morals begin to decay. So like normally I wouldn't agree with a gang, working with a gang, but this gang has offered to make it so my family can eat. And
Yeah.
yeah, I did not know that because again, I didn't come from that lifestyle. I thought, I was very naive. I thought, we just all go to work, and I couldn't believe that gangs actually work with businesses, and the the businesses in the suburbs as well. And what they do is they provide them with everything from drugs to they provide them with options for business problems. So let's say the business doesn't want to sell you a parking lot, right? It's associated with your business, okay?
Right.
All right. So what you do is you make them an offer that they can't refuse because they keep getting robbed by some strange gang.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did not
Yeah.
know that was real. Yeah, I found out that's real.
So what
So
what is your what is your approach to dealing with those type of problems? Is that something that you deal
so
with,
you have
or
to
is
have
it something?
trained people that can
Yeah.
defend your business, and that's what I did. I had trained staff, and that staff trained constantly to protect that business and keep that business alive.
Yeah.
We defeated the gang, so that's how our clients, who by the way were operating an inner city nightclub, and they're from Pakistan and India.
Yeah.
They built palaces because we were able to create safety. So that created a safe environment where you couldn't beat girls, you couldn't abduct them, you couldn't kill them, you couldn't do drive-bys, none of those things. And as a result of a safe environment, guess what I found out what would happen? I didn't know this. But what happens is people go where it's safe, especially girls. So when they find out there's a place that you can't beat the girls came to our nightclub. So imagine a nightclub being open 2 days a week, 3 days a week. Now it's open 7 days a week because that's the only place girls feel safe. Where do guys
Yeah.
go? Where the girls are. So now you have a thriving environment. It's not because we have better alcohol. It's because this particular bar is the only one in Detroit where girls were safe. And it thrived 7 days a week. Imagine that. So from peace, from creating a safe environment, that's where I first learned this. I was a byproduct. I did not know this would happen. But by protecting girls and keeping them alive and safe, keeping them from being abducted and beaten, that somehow that will equal prosperity. It didn't even make sense to me. But what I found out was that women are attracted to things like being alive and not being abducted. They're really attracted to that. And since I'm not a girl, I didn't even know that was an issue. You know what I mean? I just never thought that men. At first, I didn't know men abducted women just randomly and beat them up, and for no reason. I just did not know that happened. I'm still naive again from the suburbs. I just did not realize that men just do this. You know what I mean? Like I started interviewing girls that were beaten by men. I'd say to them, like, okay, how do you know this guy? Where did you meet him? Because I'm really interested. Because there were women being beaten every night. You know what they're being beaten for? Not giving out the phone number, or dancing with a different boy, or
Yeah.
being an ex-girlfriend and the guy sees her out, or not going home for sex, or giving out the wrong phone number. It's just a plethora of reasons to attack
Right.
girls. It's like I
Yeah.
couldn't believe that men liked it, and so we just became extremely protective and treated all the girls like they were our sister. So what would
Yeah.
you want someone to do if that was your sister or your mother? And that's what we did. We treated the girls as though they were someone's sister or mother, and as a result, it was safer for them. And as a result, those aggressive men that like to beat up girls, abduct them, and do all kinds of mistreatment, they stopped. And we protected police officers, and they'd come to nightclubs. They would come to the nightclub, and they would see suspects in the nightclub. And if the suspects, had a problem with them or someone they arrested, we would throw out that person who tried to threaten the police officer while they're enjoying their time at nightclub. So we just made it safe for everyone. And as a result of making it safe for everyone, the people from India and Pakistan thrived, and so did I. So everybody became a winner.
Yeah. Well,
All through
you know,
nonviolence.
well, we're almost at 2 hours, Dale. So I'm going to have to call it at this. But Man,
Okay.
you are truly a man that represents a mindset and a mindfulness and a thoughtfulness that that it's also a message that I think should bring hope to a lot of people, and certainly people that want to be peaceful. That there is a way to make that happen,
Right.
and
You get it,
and
and that's my point.
and you've got that solution, and it's really a tremendous message that you have, and it's so
Thank you.
surprising that there's so few people that are carrying that message. And but I definitely see that like you're one of those people that can make that message go a lot further, and a lot more people can carry that message as well to their own communities. And that's kind of one of
Well,
the
thank you for
things
recognizing that.
that we want to that's part of our ideology, is that we want to create opportunities for people to have a introduction to solutions that that may be alternatives to what they believe is the way to solve problems, like you were mentioning earlier about how many people do you arrest and how many people have you shot that are criminals. That's not the way to the solution. And it's and so seeing an alternative to that, I think, is the first step for people to really see the value in what you bring, for a
Yes.
community. And so,
And thank you for the opportunity.
so number one, thank you for bringing it about. And then number two, I'm hoping that, because I know a lot more about some of the things, because I've been following you on your Facebook page, and you have a great deal of history to share too, about things and lies that people have been taught for so long that they don't understand that there's a problem where there are
Right.
big
And
problems.
right. And without us understanding those lies, how can we move forward with the lie and expecting to
Yeah,
get better is the point, right? I mean,
absolutely.
once we stop the lying, right, we can start telling the truth. It's a little uncomfortable, but then after that, we can start to develop cohesion as a society. We can actually get stronger. You know, imagine if we said, football players and basketball players and baseball players that were Americans of African heritage just didn't like baseball, football, or basketball until the 60s.
Yeah,
They just didn't like it. No, that's not true. They were not allowed on the team. So once you understand that, you understand why basketball, football, and everything else is a lot better now, because it's what? Integrated with different ethnic groups. You're not ethnically oppressed. You can't discriminate based on skin color. So as a result, now you have not just more diversity, you have more winning. You have a higher level of competition, a higher level of performance. Just like, what was it? A guy named Hitler, he had an Olympic team with not one African on it, and he lost a lot. He lost the running races to multiple slave children. You know that Jesse Owens was born on the in a plantation. Think about that.
wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
Jesse Owens' family was born on a plantation. So he's the progeny of slaves, people that were not allowed by law to read. They had no human value. And the children of those people from a plantation, grew up to go to Germany and beat the master race, in Hitler's opinion.
yeah.
That's impossible. So the idea that there was
Well, it's great.
supremacy for anyone is
It's
inappropriate.
another great example, and that's
Yeah.
that's something else you have a wealth of, and maybe we can explore that on another occasion. And
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I hope to. I certainly hope to, because
Yeah, hopefully
there's
we
a
can
lot of
get the word out, because people think that what we're doing is for Detroit. And I promise you, we help people in all different cities. We've been all over Michigan. We've helped people in country towns. And, nobody seems to really care too much about that. But we help country people, okay, with country violence, where the men want to kill the woman. And, in one case, Aryan Nation members in Michigan said they're going to kill this woman if she does not return to the house to be their sex slave. And she was hiding in a shelter. So the police, apparently, they helped, I guess they helped, get her to the shelter, but there's nothing else they can do after that. So the Aryan Nation guys are saying they're going to come there and kill everyone at the shelter because they know it's the only shelter in the area. And so the shelter contacts us in Detroit. We're 3 hours away. We drive all the way up to this country area in Michigan to extract this lady. I bring a group of Hummers out there, protective personnel, and we transport this lady to another hidden location, another part of Michigan, until she can fly to Florida to get away from this area and escape these guys. And she was basically being sex trafficked. Okay, and so I say all that to say that we are the solution to the problem. We, the people, you can actually be the solution. The police do their part. They help the law enforcement part of it, right? Whatever that part was, I don't know what that was. But we had to, as people, care about this lady like it was your sister, right? It's like it was your mom, your daughter. Go get her and get her someplace safe. And, all the men volunteered. The gas, the vehicles, all the insurance is paid for by me. That means the financial loss. There's no money in that. I don't get any kickbacks. There's no government stimulus money from Obama. I just had to, do what I would do for my own sister. I wouldn't care about money with my sister, my mom, my daughter. So if you just use love as the impetus for why you're doing something, it makes everything a lot easier. And look at everyone as family. That's the big picture, man. You can do this in Mexico. You can do this anywhere.
Yeah. Well, that's a wonderful, wonderful way to end, Dale. And again, I greatly appreciate your time. Thank you so much for sharing with us all this. And we definitely hope to see you in Acapulco real soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you for inviting me, and I definitely look forward to it.
All right. Well, you have a wonderful day, Dale. Take care.
You too. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.